Red Voice News, splashing the check-in. Thank you for tuning in. And I'm going to touch on something that's going on in China. And I'm going to teach you guys a little bit about the work culture in China. I used to live in China myself. I used to live in Beijing. There's a company out there called Pinduoduo, okay? And one of the engineers just committed suicide, and this has aroused psychological health concerns. And this suicide just happened right after there was a 22-year-old Chinese tech employee with the company that died just clocking out of work one day. She just left work and collapsed and died. And, what is Pinduoduo? Okay, it is the largest interactive e-commerce platform in China and in the world. It is also the second largest online marketplace in China by number of users and number of orders. Okay, now this 22-year-old, let's start with this 22-year-old. Okay, 22-year-old employee of Pinduoduo, a Chinese e-commerce platform, collapsed and died after leaving work at 1:30 a.m. on December 29th. So this was just a couple weeks ago. The company gave no official cause of death, but the woman has been hailed as the latest victim of the 996 culture fueling China's tech industry. Now, what is 996? Okay, 996 means the average citizen works from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. 6 days a week. And most of the time, like that's just the minimum. They work more than that. So a lot of them, you'll see people working a 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. 7 days a week. It'll be some people that you speak to out there, they'll say like, hey, man, I haven't had a day off since August. It's really like that in China. Like a lot of those companies over there, they expect you to dedicate your life to the company. Like you give your all to the company. You put the company above your family. And then once you retire with the company, the company takes care of you with your pension, things like that. It goes on to say that Chinese tech workers have long protested the rise of the trend, but authorities have taken few steps to counter it. It's not a rise. It's been going on for years and years and years. I would say that this has been going on way before like Cultural Revolution. It's probably, this work culture lifestyle has always been in place. They said that paramedics spent 6 hours trying to revive her, but it was in vain. She died 6 hours later in the hospital, according to the South China Morning Post. Her last name is Zhang. Zhang was 6 months into a job at Pinduoduo and has been hailed as the latest victim of what is known as the 996 work culture plaguing China's tech industry. It's just not in the tech industry. It's in every industry. Okay. And the average person you'll meet, even women that I've dated in China, they all work 12 hours. And just because they work 12 hours doesn't mean that they're working constantly for the entire 12 hours. They literally can be sitting there. And if you catch somebody sleeping on the job, it's almost openly acceptable. It's like this person was working so hard at their job that it put them to sleep. So just because they're at work for 12 hours doesn't mean they're actually, just consistently working, being productive for 12 hours, because they might not have anything to really do for 12 hours, for 12 hours straight. They could be in the education industry, right? They could be, working at a language center. And at a language center, you might have like assistant teachers who are, they're Chinese and they're working from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., but kids don't show up till 4 p.m. So literally from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., they're really doing nothing almost. Like they might prep just a little bit for the day, but that might take 1 or 2 hours. And for the other 6 hours, they're just on their phones. And that's amongst any industry out there. They said over the weekend, a hashtag used to mark Zhang's death and identify her as a victim of 996 had garnered millions of views on Weibo. I think Weibo is like a social media platform in China. I never used Weibo. I used WeChat and QQ, but Weibo is popular. And the latest victim, his name was Tan. So Tan reportedly jumped to his death from his home in Changsha, central China's Hunan province, on Saturday, according to Red Star News. The company said that Tan had asked for leave from the Shanghai-based company on Friday morning, but didn't give a reason. Tan's father picked him up at the Changsha Honghua International Airport and brought him home on Friday afternoon. Tan's family members told Pinduoduo that Tan had bought a return ticket to Shanghai. Now, this engineer, he had only been working there since July, and he passed the probation period December 2020. So they have, most of the time in America, we have like a 3-month probation period. They have a 5-month probation period. Okay. So, and they don't really say his age here. Okay. They don't say his age. I would like to know how old he is, but the thing is, here you have a guy who's only been working with a company for 5 months and he already jumped to his death, and they feel like it's work related. Like he's just been overworked. 996. They feel like the 22-year-old woman who just collapsed from leaving her job was due to the harsh work conditions at some of these companies, well, at that particular company in China. But that kind of represents, that was trending. 996 was trending because this is something that the majority of employees in China, this is something that the majority of them go through. 996. And from personal experience, from what I've seen, they face a lot of abuse at some of these companies in China. I've seen it. I've seen where, some of these companies, like, they'll give rewards to companies who, if their sales, well, they'll give their rewards to individual employees if they had high sales for the month, depending on what company they work for. They'll give them rewards, and then they'll punish those who did not meet that quota or whatever they did wrong. And they'll embarrass them in front of the entire company. I've seen people get spanked by wooden paddles in front of like hundreds of people. They'll have like a company banquet or a company dinner, and, there'll be hundreds of people there. There's a stage. I mean, and they go all out, and they'll bring these people on stage and they will spank them. I've seen videos of people having to go outside in their underwear and dance for hours to embarrass them because, like, hey, these are our worst performing employees with the company, so we're just going to embarrass them. Men and women outside in their underwear. I've seen employees on all fours crawling through the streets, crawling on the sidewalks because they just didn't really have a successful month. They didn't meet their quota. I've seen one company, they had a banquet and they made all the employees who had like a low performing month, they made them get on their knees and like stand up straight on their knees, right? And they had to face a partner. They had to pick a partner and face them. And they was like, on the count of 3, you guys have to slap each other. And literally there's video footage of that. You could just Google that or type that in on YouTube. There are people who are in China at this Chinese company who had a low performing month. And it looked like there had to have been at least 20 or 30 people on stage just slapping each other. They had to slap each other until they said stop. There was another video I've seen where there was a group of employees who performed poorly at a company and they had to like crawl around like this room. They had to crawl around on their knees on some room until the boss said stop, and they were like spanking them, whipping them with like a whip and a paddle and a belt while they were crawling around. And this was men and women. So on top of 996, on top of on top of the 996 culture, the work schedule, you have to be an excellent performer. You have to meet your quota. Whatever it is that your company asks for you have to, there's a minimum standard. If you don't reach that minimum standard, which is pretty much a high standard, they will embarrass you. Okay. They'll embarrass you in front of the company. They'll embarrass you in front of the public. I've heard people, they've had, name calling, they get smacked around. And a lot of people are like, okay, well, why don't they just leave? No, you go to another company. It's the same thing wherever you go. And the thing is, if you go to another company, they're going to look like, okay, we do the same thing over here. We do the same thing over here to our employees. So you're not really going to find a company that doesn't really do that. And if you do, they're going to look at you like you're a quitter. We don't want you. We don't want you. Like, that was a good company you left to come over here. Nah, we don't want you. So it's hard for them to find a job after they leave a company And I'm not saying Pinduoduo does that, where they're abusive towards their employees over there. But I will say this, something is going on for two employees back to back to just drop dead like that. One to drop dead and one to commit suicide. You know, and I was living in Beijing, so the pollution was very high, PM 2.5. People are, like I said, working all day. And there's 40 million more men in China than women. So you have a lot of these guys that, you know, they have to be at a woman's call and beckon, you know, at the drop of a hat. And they're already stressed out trying to maintain a relationship. They have to keep the bosses happy. They have to show up to work on time every single day. 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 hours a day. You have to be there on time. And you're not getting paid that much money. You have to get on the train every single day. It's crowded on the train. You know, they have these pushers. They hire professional pushers. Well, I'm going to say professional pushers, but they hire these pushers to push people on the train so that they can fit on the subway. People are cramped up on the subway. You have to go through like 15 stops to get to your train. I mean, to get to your station, to get to work. You know, there are people on the train. Amongst that crowded train, there are people sliding through in the middle of the train, going through everybody who, you know, they have third-degree burns all over their bodies, like their limbs are gone, their ears have been cut off, their nose has been cut off, one of their eyes has been gouged out, and they're begging for money. Oh, I can do a whole video talking about that. You go to China right now, and I was in Beijing. I don't know about Shanghai, but I know in Beijing, every train you get on, there's somebody like that. There's several people like that on the train. You know, and it's sad. Don't get me wrong. It's sad. But, you know, they go through all this stress. There's everything going on in their life. They were probably raised, you know, tiger parenting. The girl that they like is very demanding. And, you know, the man has probably been in a relationship with this woman. They've still never had, you know, sexual intercourse. I knew a guy, he was in a relationship with a woman for 5 years in China, in Beijing. And then one day she just broke up with him. And he told me, he's like, yeah, you know, I never had sex with her because they have options. There's 40 million more men than women. The women have options in China. You work in a 996, you know, your boss is calling you all types of names and you're not really performing well. Like, this pushes people to the edge and they just say, hey, I just want to be done with it. Or their health just deteriorates and they just drop to their death, which is very sad. All right. So I hope you guys learned something. I apologize that this was a pretty long video, but like, subscribe, comment, share this video. Look in the description box below. If you want to join my Discord server, it's right there. If you want to send a donation, click the link below to the Buy Me a Coffee page. You can either send a donation or you can become a member and learn more about Asian culture. All right. Splash, man. I'll check you out on the next video. Peace.